Welcome to Ploughman's Backyard. My name is Kendra and today we are candling our eggs from our Chickcozy Incubator. So today we are candling at day 7 of our incubation, and we do this primarily to examine the development of the eggs. And why we need to examine them is because we want to know which eggs are fertile and which ones are not. As the process is going through and we're finding the fertile eggs and we're finding the infertile eggs, we are going to be removing the ones that are not fertile. The purpose for that is later on in incubation, sometimes eggs can spoil when they are not fertilized or have gone bad, and they can actually cause bacteria to enter your good eggs, your fertile eggs, because the eggs are porous and can take in the bacteria of a bad egg if it, say it explodes or something like that. So that is the purpose why we are checking our eggs as we go. So typically you want to start candling your eggs around day 5 or 7. Day 7, you really should be seeing some sort of spider veining, and you should be able to see a little black dot, which is the embryo that you may find in the middle of the egg or closer to the top of the egg. So basically what you're looking for is some veins, the spider veins, which are the blood supply veins. You're going to just see it take up a top portion of your egg, and then later on in the incubation process you're going to see your egg fill up more completely. So it's normal just to see a little bit at the first few days of the incubation, and by day 14 to 15 you should really see a lot of the egg taken up with veins in the embryo growing into a little chick. It's always really important when you start out candling to make sure that you wash your hands so that you're not putting bacteria and oil from your skin onto these fertilized eggs. Since the eggs are porous, they can take in anything from off your hands and bring inside the egg that could contaminate your chick. The next thing that you really want to look for after you're looking for the spider veins is looking for the air sac. If you can't seem to find the veins or the little embryo, the next thing to look for is an air sac. And if you see the air sac, it usually develops on the rounder portion of the egg, the bottom of the egg, or the fatter part of the egg. That is where you're going to find the air sac, and if it develops an air sac, it's a good chance that that egg is fertilized. So the next step of incubation, once you've done your first week or 7 days of incubation and you've done that candling, the next time that I like to do candling is usually around the 14th or 15th day. You can do it around day 9 or 10, but just remember that the more you're removing your eggs and you're touching your eggs, the greater the chance is there could be problems with incubation as well as problems with bacteria. So just keep that in mind. The reason why we choose to do, or most people choose to do, the very beginning of incubation at day 7 and really close to the end of incubation around day 15, you're catching an infertile egg at the very beginning, and sometimes those eggs can be fertile, but through the development and incubation process they can actually die before hatching. So the beginning really cuts down on having those bad eggs in your incubator, as well as the end, you're checking and making sure that those eggs are still fertile and they hadn't died during the process, so that when it comes time to hatch day, you only have the good eggs left. It is normal to have also a loss when you're incubating. Don't think that if you purchase 12 eggs and you put them in the incubator that all of them are going to hatch. It's completely normal to lose a few. I've been incubating eggs for a few years now, and we use our own backyard chicks, and sometimes we have a really good hatch rate and sometimes we only have like a 40% hatch rate. It just depends on the year. It depends on the fertility of the chickens and the eggs. And it also depends on how well your incubator is working. A really good hatch rate to have, and most commercial businesses will have about an 85% hatch rate. So just keep that in mind when you're buying your eggs from somebody else, if you are, that you will not be probably hatching all of those eggs. So if you need to purchase more, then do so at that time. Another thing is some people get eggs from overseas, and the more that there's like transportation, whether it is air or by mail or even just picking them up and driving them, During transportation, there is also a chance of losing some of your fertile eggs, just because of movement can actually hinder the air sac development when it becomes to be a fertile egg. So those are things to keep in mind. If you can have a very close local farmer, it is better to get your eggs from them, or have your own backyard chickens and have your own eggs. It'll lessen your chances of losing out on your incubating fertile eggs. As you can see, day 7 is a little bit more tricky. Day 5 is even more tricky, but day 7, you should be seeing some light veining going on, and you should be seeing a little black dot, which is the embryo developing. So this egg here, we weren't sure about. We thought we seen something, but we weren't 100% sure. So we put a question mark on it. So then when we go back on day 14, we can see if any development taken place, and if not, then we can go ahead and remove that. So if you're not sure, just put some sort of marker on your egg, just so that you can remember that specific egg. So this egg here, there's no veining taking place, and I'm pretty sure that it is infertile, so we'll be removing this egg. You can see here my daughter found the embryo. You can see it moving a little bit there just as I move the egg, and there is some veining taking place. It may be hard to see on the video itself, but that's a good fertile egg right there. And another egg, we've seen another embryo on this egg as well. During this portion of day 7, we actually removed 5 eggs out of 25 that we have started out with. You can see there again, we got another fertile egg. I don't know if you can see the veining in this one, but there's definitely a little embryo in there, and that's what you're wanting to look for. Usually the first thing you'll see is the veins, and then just have a look and see if you can find the embryo, which can be a little harder to find if it's in the middle of the egg. They can be really easy to see if they are closer to the outer shell. So in total, we removed 5 eggs from our 25 that we put into the incubator, and 2 that we are going to be monitoring to see if they develop any further during the incubation time. So we are now candling for day 15, and we should be seeing a lot more movement and a lot more distinct embryo development at this stage. As you can see here, there is definitely an embryo in here. There's lots of veins at the bottom, which you can see, and you should be looking for the air sac at this point as well. And you should be seeing a lot of movement from your little embryos inside, becoming young little chicks. This one was amazing. It was moving a lot. There was a lot of movement. I would say this one had developed a lot earlier than the rest, and I want to say this one is probably going to be one of the first few that hatch once we reach our 21 days of incubation. Just look at that. The veins are very distinct. The air sac at the bottom of the egg, you can see, is very distinct and growing really well. And just so much movement. This one has developed very well. Again, we've got the air sac at the bottom. We can see the veins, and we can see a lot of movement inside the egg, which are very good signs. And we've got another. The egg sac is very distinct there. There is some movement in this egg as well, not as strong of perhaps an embryo. So this one just may be a little bit more behind on the development. And the air sac is there at the bottom. We can see lots of veins, and the embryo is there. And so we're just checking to see if it moves on its own or if it had moved just because I moved the egg. So sometimes it's normal to have losses during incubation, like I had mentioned. Sometimes people call these quitters, or sometimes they just don't fully make it through the development process and die. Here's our next egg. Lots of veins, got a good air sac there, and lots of movement from this one. So this is really good to see. It's not as maybe developed as one of the first few eggs that we had shown, but it has good development that we're seeing. So this one here is, again, lots of movement. It's very dark, so it's taking up a lot of the egg, which is a good sign that this one's getting very close to getting ready to hatch. Again, another early bloomer, I would say. Good air sac, lots of veins at the bottom, and another quite full egg. And this is what you're wanting to see. This is you're wanting to see the egg fill up. Then you know that how the process is going for development. So on the eggs that are not as full that we've seen previous, there's a chance that they will not hatch at all, or maybe more delayed. This one you can see here, it had started developing an embryo. You can see the black there. There was some veins. The air sac is not distinct in this one. You don't really see it so much at the bottom, and it is not moving on its own. It's only moving when I move the egg. So this one we have removed from the incubator because it had died somewhere in the process of day 7 and day 14. So this is a bit of a darker egg, so it's a little bit harder to see, but there is some movement in this egg. There is a air sac as well and some veining. It's not as, it doesn't look to be as full as the last few chicks that we have seen in the egg, but it could be just because this is a darker colored egg. So the darker the egg color is, the harder it's going to be to see that distinction inside the egg. This here looks like a great developed chick inside here. You can see the movement, the air sac looks great. Lots of big veins is what we're wanting to see. This one has developed quite nicely and should hopefully hatch. Again, we're seeing the air sac is quite distinct. This one is more on its side, which is fine. The longer that the incubation actually goes, closer to the end, we should continue to see the air sac grow in size as well. We're seeing some veining, we're seeing some moving of an embryo in there, but it is not as full as the others. So this could be just a late bloomer and a late hatcher. This is beautiful. Look at that air sac, very distinct, growing well. Lots of big thick veins in there for good blood supply, and the embryo is moving. We got a nice chick in there moving really healthily, and I think that one would be hatching anytime soon as well. So again, we're seeing another egg here that's fertile, that's got the air sac at the bottom. We've got some veins. It is not as developed as some of the other chicks inside the egg, but it seems to still be doing well and developing well. I'm not 100% sure how this one is going to be at the end of 21 days. So at this point, we removed, I think, another 2 or 3 eggs, which leaves us with either 18 or 17 eggs still in the incubator and a couple that are a little bit of late bloomers. So we'll see how they turn out. We've got a few more days to go until lockdown day.